Hi, I'm Cailey, a librarian here at Mentor Public Library.
And I'm Meg, also a librarian, and welcome to today's edition of All Booked Up with Cailey and Meg, where each time we give you different book recommendations on a specific theme. Today, Cailey and I are going to be looking at teen books with a cover by a certain color. So this is something we in the library world notice a lot. Sometimes people will come up to us and say, hey, I was looking for this book, and they'll tell us all about it, but they'll say, I only know that the cover was yellow. And we have no idea how to find it for people. So we thought, why don't we take inspiration from this and give you ideas based off of the color of the cover?
Yes. And I will say, like, sometimes it's fun because we get to play detective because we're like, oh, it was a blue book and you think it was a mystery and it was recent.
Right.
But this was fun to pick for today, I think, because we got to kind of branch out and really pick books by cover, which is not always how you're supposed to do it. But all of the books that we're going to talk about today for you are available here at the library, as well as online for free with your library card through Libby and Hoopla. All right, Meg, what color did you pick first?
I started with pink. So this is a book called See You Yesterday by Lynn Solomon. And this is Groundhog's Day. If it was happening on the worst, instead of Groundhog's Day, it was the worst day of your first day of college. So, yes. So our heroine, Barrett Bloom, is hoping college will be a fresh start from a pretty messy high school experience. So she's pretty glad to be going to college finally. However, her first day is September 21st, which is actually coming up in real life too. It's almost September 21st. Everything goes wrong for her. She's humiliated by the know-it-all student in her physics class. At a party that night, she accidentally sets the frat house on fire. So it's a horrible first day.
I'll say.
Yeah. So when that happens, she panics and flees and is hoping to get a good night's rest in her new dorm room, only to discover that her roommate has locked her out of the room. So she has to sleep in the dirty, musty hallway of her dormitory. And when she wakes up, rather than getting a hopeful, fresh, new start at a new day, she, to her horror, discovers it's September 21st again. So she has to relive it all again. But here's the little twist. She is not alone in this experience. So she's not the only one going through September 21st again and again. Who is it but that really annoying kid from physics class, Miles? She discovers that he has actually been reliving September 21st for a long time, for months. So they're kind of now stuck in this conundrum together. And as they deal with it and try to get out of this situation, they discover there may be a couple sparks, maybe some interest there. So it's a really fun one. And the cover is really fun too. Speaking of cover, it's just a bright pink, shows them, the two main kids going out of the elevator and just kind of looking angry at each other. So I love it.
That sounds really fun. It sounds a lot like that Andy Samberg movie, Palm Springs, I think it was. Same kind of concept where one of them has been reliving the day longer than the other.
Okay. Oh, cute.
But, you know, I'm sure that there's unique twists in this
Yes.
as well. And I like that, you know, it's on this very big day for her, being like the first day of college, because that's absolutely like, you know, a big day that's supposed to be memorable and great. Or alternatively, just like forgettable. And in this case, it is really not in either case.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. I think that's a fun one. So my first title for today is picking an orange cover.
Okay.
And I selected Dry by Neal Shusterman and Jarrod Shusterman. And this one came out about 5 years ago.
Okay.
And this takes us to Southern California.
Nice.
In the midst of a drought, which is not too unusual, but this one seems to be a little bit different. The government has started to institute some water rationing. No pools, no sprinklers, definitely don't water your lawn, no baths, quick showers, and then suddenly it becomes clear to everyone that the government has sort of been keeping a secret how bad this water situation is, because then there's no water. And so begins chaos in this like sleepy suburban town as the residents are on the hunt for water, no matter the consequences. And on this once quiet street, teen Alyssa and her family find themselves smack dab in the thick of it. And when Alyssa's parents don't come back from leaving the house, she and her little brother are left to fend for themselves amidst what has increasingly become a hostile world. And so this one is actually told from multiple perspectives. Alyssa and her younger brother and some friends, and how they sort of discover that the world is not always a safe place, especially when something as important as water is scarce and everyone is looking for it. And they have to decide sort of what lengths they're going to go to stay alive, to protect what they have, and, to find what they need, in this case, water. It's really testing their humanity. And it is one of those situations like the dystopian type stories where things change very quickly. Wow. This book is like super fast paced. It is a standalone book. It's hyper realistic in today's world with all of the different climate crises occurring. And it really makes you think a lot about, the resources we have and how you might behave if you were to lose them.
Yeah, that's wild. I mean, I will say water is like the only thing I drink. So that would be like my worst nightmare. I'd be like, oh my gosh. Yeah, that sounds like gripping. Kind of, yeah, like when catastrophe strikes, like it can bring out the worst in people.
Exactly.
It's just like crazy. Yeah, that sounds very interesting, Cailey.
Mm-hmm.
So my next color that I chose is green, or maybe yellow green. Maybe I fudged it a little bit.
Both colors.
Yeah, both. Neither of yours were yellow or green, so it works. So my book is called Willa of the Wood by Robert Beatty. And it is about a young girl named Willa, and she's a young night spirit. So in this world, which kind of takes place in the early 1900s in the Smoky Mountains, there are what are called day folk and night spirits. So people are separated by whether they live during the day or the night. So she's a night spirit. And for her people, the night people, humans are the murderers of trees. And so they're kind of looked at as very dangerous, stay away from them. And Willa, her job is at night. She goes into their homes and steals essential materials that she feels like they've stolen from her people, kind of like taking them back. Well, she's called a thief though. So it's kind of like this mix of like she's in this place where it's dangerous, but she's also feels like she's doing something that she believes in. So anyway, what happens is she kind of gets stuck in the day world when the curiosity got the best of her. She's kind of in this village and she kind of gets stuck there. And when she gets stuck there, she calls upon the ancient forest spirits that her grandma loved. And when she does that, she begins to learn a whole lot more about the society she lives in. Not only the day people, but also some maybe sinister aspects of her own society, the night people. So as she goes through this journey, which is called the Faerun Society, she kind of learns a lot about herself. She kind of gets away from both groups and she becomes friends with like the forest animals, which is really cool. I thought there's a cute little wolf on the cover and I love it. It's just like her best friend. And I just love all aspects of this. It's like a cool separate world. Kind of reminds me of, like, I don't know if anyone watches anime, like one of those anime sci-fi movies. I don't know. It was just very intriguing. And I just love the world building in this book. And the cover reflects that too. It's just like kind of mysterious looking in the forest, a very beautiful image. And I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head when you talk about world building. It's so important when you're reading a book that's either fantasy or futuristic or something. You really need to like feel like you've been put in that world.
Yeah, it's wild.
So, that one sounds fun. I might have to check that one out. Well, my next one was a blue cover, and there's actually a lot of blue covered books. I felt like this was kind of an easy one, but also hard to pick a good one to talk about. So the one I chose today is called They Both Die at the End by Adam Silvera. And he has written a number of great YA books. So his name is very familiar to me. And I think that title just really catches your attention. So hopefully it's not one people would forget. So imagine getting a phone call at midnight warning you that you have less than 24 hours to live.
Ooh, scary.
And, what would you do with your remaining time? Who would you spend it with? Who would you say goodbye to? Would you want to spend it doing something you love, eating your favorite foods, all sorts of different things that you would consider?
Yeah.
In this world, there is a company called Deathcast that issues this call based on a number of data points and entry things, and it's beyond anyone's understanding really, but they are rarely, if ever, incorrect in their predictions.
Oh.
It's also important to note that because of Deathcast, there is an app called Last Friend.
Oh my
Last Friend brings together people who have been alerted by Deathcast so that they have someone to spend their last day with.
Wow.
Which brings us to our main characters of Mateo and Rufus, both teenagers, and they have both been alerted that this is their end day.
Wow.
And they've been brought together through Last Friend. They go through this last day together, which is not as exciting as you might think. They get food together, they ride bikes, they visit some family, but along the way, in this 24-hour period, they are sharing little bits of themselves, their joys, their fears, their loves, their hates, all of that, while they are knowing that there is a ticking clock. So as they're getting closer, they also know they're getting closer to that end time. And that's all I'm going to say. This book is very moving and sweet and very thoughtful, and makes you kind of think a lot about what a world is like where people are alerted that their death is impending, and how that kind of changes the way they interact with the world. Another unique thing is that, we have our two main characters, but there's also peeks into a number of other characters' lives who are similarly on the same path, and kind of how that has impacted them. So.
Wow, that's a really unique one. Yeah, especially because they just give him such late notice. It's not like they give him a month or a week. It's like one day.
I mean, I don't think there's ever enough time.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
But yeah,
that's crazy. Wow. Yeah, that sounds like a really thought-provoking one. Sounds good. Yeah. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining us for this week's edition of All Booked Out with Cailey and Meg. We hope you maybe picked a color that you liked based off of this for what you want to read. Feel free to come and stop by us, ask us, if you only know the color, hey, we can still help you out.
I think it's a fun way to pick something new to read too. Maybe you're in a reading slump and you just decide you're going to find a book with an orange cover.
Why not? We've had displays here before like that. We'll have a display with all blue books or all whatever. So why not?
Be fun. And there's no wrong reading, right?
Never.
No. Well, thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time. Happy reading.